How's Jake? He's good. Better, he's coping. He'll be a senior this fall. That's great. There's a lot for him to go through. A lot for all of us to go through. Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I'm sorry. I betrayed your trust. I betrayed our patient's trust. And I'm really fucking sorry. It'll never happen again, I swear. I'm really glad that you got the help that you need. But I don't know if I want you working in my ER.
Hello, all. Welcome back to What's On Tonight, a podcast with elaborate, quirky, and unpredictable conversations about TV, movies, and more. I'm Becky.
And I'm Mandy.
Woo! Today we are covering HBO Max's hit show, The Pitt Season 2, Episode 7, titled 1 p.m. Please note this is a spoiler-filled podcast, so if you have not watched the episode yet and don't want to be spoiled, just come back and check us out once you're done.
Before we get into episode 7, we got some awesome feedback from the Pirate Core YouTube page on our episode 6 coverage. Our favorite gal, Linda1541, said, "Great job, ladies," with a little heart emoji. Yuns did great. Yuns means all. Some people pronounce it yuns. I've seen people argue about it on Facebook with a little laughing emoji. I have seen that too, but not in a mean way. I've heard it's from Scotch-Irish immigrant and that would say you ones. Anyway, I'll send you more information on Pittsburghese.
And boy, did she.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
Yeah, and I am so grateful that when I was taking turns reading the feedback that whole thing landed in your color, because, wow, that's a lot of words that I don't know how to pronounce. And I'm like, Mandy's got this.
I'm pretty excited about it, but I want to mention here, I agree with you, Linda. I do think that there's no proof really about where it came from, but I have always thought of yins as very much like you guys' version of y'all.
Same.
And so I believe, and I love language, so I'm kind of a nerd about the history, the etymology of language, and especially dialects and American dialects in particular. I'm going to nerd out a little bit about that later on when we get to another language issue in this episode, which bless my little heart. But anyway, I do think that is where it comes from. I think that y'all and yins are two sides of the same coin, and it's just a very much needed way to say you all that the English language should have. And I think it's great that people are not as sniffy and judgy about that. I hear people using y'all all the time these days.
Yeah, it's become very normal. Us Southerners don't sound so silly anymore.
Yeah, we needed that, didn't we?
Heck yeah. At Kano794 says, "Great podcast as usual. Thank you. I'm a family and ER doctor." Okay, great. Very good. I don't know why I thought it was nurse, but thank you for clarifying. And she adds that in Canada, you can do both, especially outside of major urban centers. It's so nice to see our work accurately portrayed, although I'm very grateful where I work is nowhere as busy as the Pit, I can imagine. Ogilvy is what we would refer to as a quote-unquote gunner, which is a slightly derogatory term for a med student who thinks they know it all and has to let everyone know about it. Usually someone who wants a competitive program. Every class has them, ... Usually not well liked. I'm not surprised by that.
Neither is Ogilvy.
Goes on to say also about the blood donuts, no medical staff will be upset about food gifts if they come from patients and family, with a smiley face, because our hospitals are public, our frustrations are slightly different. But it made me think of all the times we were told that physician wellness is important by being mandated to go to a lecture on it. And with like a thinking face emoji. That was awesome. Thank you, Kano.
Okay, no, when I read that, I literally clapped a little bit because I'm not in medicine, but I have been in industries where they are repeatedly telling you that your work-life balance is very important, but the way that you get that information is by being forced to go and listen to a bunch of speeches with time that you don't have, taking away from work that you really need to be doing, and it is in no way helpful. So, yeah, that made me laugh.
Thank you guys for writing in. I love when the episodes post and I go to YouTube to look and see how many listeners we have and whatnot. It always makes me smile when I see comments.
Yeah, especially you guys that have made a habit of commenting fairly often. Like, it's awesome. I feel like we made new friends, and it's very cool.
It is. Now on to episode 7. This episode was written by Kristen Pierre Gayfrom and R. Scott Gimmel and directed by Uta Briezowitz.
The synopsis for this episode is: after honoring Louis, the staff resumes work. Dana and Emma collect evidence for a rape kit from sexual assault victim Ilana Miller. During a pap test, Ilana becomes hesitant about reporting her assault. Santos continues to struggle in communicating with Harlow, a hearing-impaired patient. Potential psych patient Jackson's parents arrive seeking to take him home, prompting Dr. Jefferson to explore family history and reveal hidden truths. We discover Dr. Abbott works with the SWAT when he brings in an officer who was shot preventing a robbery. Langdon apologizes to Robbie, but Robbie tells him he is unsure if he wants him working in his ER, seeming to affect Langdon's confidence. Mohan is distressed when her diabetic patient bails, leading to an intimate moment and a surprising offer from Dr. Abbott. Santos calms the abandoned baby by singing a Filipino lullaby. Hospital CEO Trent Norris arrives. Isn't that the most hospital CEO name you've ever heard in your life?
I am referring to him as CEO douchebag.
There you go. Arrives to announce a regional cyber attack involving a ransom, forcing the hospital to shut down its computer system. We are going analog.
I said I was going to say this back in the early episode coverage. These next episodes are going to just continuously make me think back to when
the POS went down.
And the restaurants, and we had to go analog. And I know medicine, emergency departments are nothing like it, but I don't know what it is about serving and medical work that really carry a lot of the same similarities. It's freaky.
It's that demand on time, like that you have a certain time constraint that you've got to work under, and it's a very brief one to get your job done, or everybody that you talk to is going to hate you. It's real stressful. You're right. I don't want anybody to think that we're comparing like working in fast casual dining to saving people's lives, but it feels very much like it when you've got a mother with 6 screaming kids who's pissed off at you because their chicken tenders aren't getting out fast enough.
Right. It's intense, y'all.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump into the episode. I put our first main point down as Ilana, and it's a lot of Ilana, but also a lot of Dana. God, this section, Mandy and I both are assault survivors, and I know a lot of our listeners, I'm sure it's unfortunately becoming more common than it should be. But the things I really liked at the start of this was Lupe immediately alerting the team that there was a sexual assault survivor. I like how Robbie was smart to ask Dr. Al to insist, knowing this is not a space a man needs to be. For as little as the lack of self-awareness that Robbie has sometimes, these moments, and we'll get into some later with Mel and Santos, he just really, that's when my heart swells like, oh, I remember why I love him. And I thought it was funny when they went to get the patient that Dr. Al's comment at the use of her patient passports, all they're doing is using him as a fan.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was really big of her to not get. You might, like the first couple of episodes we saw Dr. Al assume that she would be very sniffy about that, but she had a great sense of humor about it.
She really did. All right, so let's jump into their time with the patient. So I had no idea about this SANE program, and I will say it a couple of times in this episode. I love when they teach us things, and they taught us about SANE, PAR, the whole nine. So the SANE definition is a sexual assault nurse examiner. And like I said, I love they put this in. It's really sad to me how our justice system constantly fails survivors on a regular basis. You know, the number of rape kits still sitting on a shelf waiting to be processed is absolutely horrifying. I encourage anyone to go look up the statistics. It's really sad. So I was grateful to hear that there are people trained to help the survivors. And Dana, how she kicked into gear just immediately, teaching Emma on their way to meet the patient, the way she made sure Emma was okay for this. And I thought it was really sweet that when she was asking Emma, are you sure you're up for this? And Emma's like, yeah. But then, like, just for a second, she like squares her shoulders, clears her throat. And she's like, yes, this girl is going places, man. I loved it.
Yeah.
But I think everything Catherine Lanasa did was brilliant.
Yeah, I thought that moment kind of mirrored towards the end of the episode when she was the one that suddenly had this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, she saw Dana was affected. And so she was like, but I loved her little cheerful, let's go find the good snacks.
Yeah.
She just.
I love that it was almost mirrored that moment where she knew that the patient needed bolstering and Dana needed a moment, and she was able to jump in there and do what needed to be done on her first day. And you can tell she's just such a sweetheart. I love this character. You were talking earlier about Robbie, where he can be so self-unaware, and then you have these moments where you see that. And that's the beauty of the show, is that nobody in this show is a cartoon villain and no one is a saint. You very clearly get to see their blind spots and their flaws, but you also get to see these moments that make them just amazing at what they do. And I think that it's really a testament to the brilliant writing of the show. But back to what you were saying about the statistics behind assault patients or women being sexually violated.
And it's men too.
It is absolutely not just women. And I understand why you made that point, and it is a great point. It is not just women. That there are men that are sexually assaulted in this country every single day. But I do want to make the point here that it is predominantly women. Statistics are much higher for women, which may be because fewer men feel comfortable reporting it because of this fact. Sexual assault and other violences, domestic violence specifically, like violence against you from an intimate partner, are the only crimes where the victim is made to feel like they have done something wrong when they come forward.
Yep.
I hear that it may be a bit different these days, although I'm skeptical because of the fact that there are so many rape kits sitting out there unprocessed in this country. But when I was younger, I have a police officer in my family who told me to my face, rape is the only crime where we start out trying to prove the victim is a liar.
And that leads into what I think the show did really well with this topic. So, yes, they asked what happened. Alana gave a little bit of it, and I like that they made it not just some random person she didn't know, that it was a friend, because that goes very into what you're saying. Most sexual assaults are people you know. Mine was people I knew. It's crazy,
very complex.
But I appreciate the show did not shove the perpetrator down our throats, that they focus that this is about Alana. This is about her processing. This is about her journey. And this is about the survivor. I'm trying not to say victim, because I think survivor is.
And that is part of what she's struggling with. That is very much what she's struggling with, is two things. It's one, that she is going to potentially completely upend her world. And suddenly as this progresses and the longer it takes, you can see in her head that she is looking at her entire life spiraling out of control when people have to choose sides. She knows there are people that are not going to believe her. It is very fucked up the way that we think about sexual assault in this country. And to be clear, I personally was never raped. I hate even making this distinction, but I think it's important because sexual assault can take many, many forms. The things that happened to me were more properly molestation. That being said, the way that you feel inside does not change, whether it is a violent assault or you are vaginally penetrated. It does the same thing to your psyche. Especially if it's somebody you know. It creates this jacked up thing where it's not you being crazy. It's not you feeling internalized shame for no reason. It's reality. That's part of what frustrates me so much about the political climate that we're in, is that you have all of these people justifying horrible things on the basis that they're trying to protect women and girls, when these are the same people who are protecting the people that are most likely to assault women and girls. And I don't want to leave men who are victims out of that. It's just that this is something that is very triggering to me. And I'm so glad that they're telling this story, And I'm so glad that they're putting it out there because, Becky and I are pretty open about these things, not because we're trying to shock anyone or trying to force our pain down your throat. It's not that. It's that we have worked through that shame. And I think that we both are at a point where we're pissed off about the fact that we couldn't get justice at the time because we couldn't come forward because we didn't think we'd be believed or that we would be shunned.
Right. And the fact that I've learned from my own experiences of hearing someone else's story helps me be stronger.
Exactly.
So I don't mind sharing what's going on in my life most of the time. From our own personal experiences, hearing other people talk about theirs has helped us. So if we can help any of y'all by talking about our personal situations, then we're going to do it.
Exactly. I know online conversations are usually just completely pointless, but I do admit that occasionally to vent, I will engage with someone in a comment section. And recently there is this person who posts quite a bit in like a local Facebook group about the school board of all things, but he likes to bring in situations where he claims that he is trying to protect women and girls. And I'd had enough. And I was very blunt about what I had been through. And my point for that was two things. Number one, I'm tired of people who don't understand what it's like dominating the discourse about what should be done to protect vulnerable people here. I'm tired of that. They don't get to make up fantasies about pretend cabals or make out that trans people are the real danger to women and girls in this country while also ignoring and creating a society where you are terrified to come forward because you're afraid of what's going to happen to you socially and legally if you try to advocate for yourself in a situation where it was probably just you and that other person in the room, and that person was probably really damn good at masking who they are for the rest of the time. But also to Becky's point, it's more because I want to normalize us talking about these things. I encourage anybody out there that is lucky enough to have never been through something like that, ask the women in your life. A lot of this may just be because people don't want to be open about these things for a variety of reasons. I don't know one single woman who hasn't at some point in her life been groped or held down or harassed in some way. Not one single woman on this planet. And again, I don't want men who have been through this to be lost in that mix. And maybe it is really because you guys don't talk about it as often. Most women don't come forward, but we talk about it amongst ourselves. We tell our daughters, we tell our sisters, usually as cautionary tales to try to help give them some way to protect themselves. And it's so common. It's so pervasive. And I'm sorry, I'll get off this soapbox now, but this really touched me. And I'm so grateful that they did this because we need to normalize talking about this. The only way that we're going to flip that paradigm where this is the only kind of assaults that the victim feels like they can't come forward, destigmatize it, and to find out what it really is and how pervasive and common it is, and to make the perpetrators afraid again.
Yep. And I'm grateful that for anyone who's never experienced this or know someone who's experienced it, that they painted the perfect portrait of what it's like. And so before we get into the actress who, in my opinion, acted her ass off in those scenes, I want to talk about Dana and Dana working with Alana. I love how both Emma and Dana, but especially Dana, did as best as she could to help Alana keep as much of her dignity by keeping her mostly covered while she was undressing. And that little quick shot of Emma's face watching through, oh God, that was crazy. But what I thought was amazing was how slow Dana went, explaining in the clearest of terms the process as she went through each step. But what was most amazing was how she constantly was telling Alana, she was in control. She sets the pace. You don't have to report this, or you can report this. Just so professional and kind all at the same time. And if this does not guarantee Lanasa an Emmy next season, I don't know what's wrong with the world. And then that moment when Alana starts to panic, the par advocate is there, and Dana starts to reach out to hold her and then she stops. Whew.
Yeah, that was top tier acting. And I know I don't want to skip ahead because we've got some feedback later on about Catherine Lanas's thoughts on that, but I can't wait for us to get to that part.
I wanted to make sure to include that in show notes because I think it's very important.
I don't watch a whole lot of the cast and crew interviews in general because there are a bunch of them. And I appreciate that those resources are there, but I try not to, mostly because I want to stay in the show. But I really love Catherine Lanas's process. And I'm so grateful that she's talked so openly about what's going on with her character because her mind it's very interesting, and you can tell how much skill she puts into crafting every single moment that she's on screen. And I love the way her mind works. I appreciate it. I appreciate her thoughts. And it pays off because there's been like 15 instances in this season where I've thought, okay, that's going to get her an Emmy.
Yeah, I think this one sealed it for me.
It was beautiful. When she started crying, oh man, when she broke down. Oh,
yeah, I think, we'll save it for when because it's in the part
right.
Mandy and I are talking about. So
right.
I won't go into too much into her thoughts, we think she was feeling because she tells us what she was feeling. So
yeah.
it's really great. But also, I think that I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right. Tina Ivlov.
That looks
is right. The young lady who played Alana. And I really am gunning to get a casting person on here because I want to hear specifically how they choose the people that they've chosen because they're killing it. But you can see, she's tired, she's scared, but the bravery that she showed in just showing up. And then you could see the gamut of emotions that she's feeling as each procedure continues on. And then when they're talking about her reporting it, that's when she starts to freak out, much to what Mandy was saying earlier, that's what's the scariest part, especially when it's with someone that you've been assaulted by someone, that fear of her whole life being flipped upside down, which makes me sad because, honey, your life has already been flipped upside down.
Right.
And then she needed that break. And then with each one of the procedures, each one is more invasive. And I am so grateful they showed that side of the assault because usually when it's portrayed on TV, it's a lot like what Mandy said. You see the police procedural part. You don't see what that survivor actually has to go through
after being victimized.
Yes. And it's like they technically are being victimized all over again, not in a forceful way.
Psychologically, that's what it feels like.
Yes. Like is when she starts to get to the pap smear part, she freaks out because it's like she was just traumatized.
Right. And again, that word victim, I can't stress enough that most of us don't ever want to be associated with that word. I shouldn't have even said she'd been victimized. She was assaulted, and it makes you a victim of a crime, but that word just has a connotation that no proud person wants to be thought of as a quote unquote victim. And it's very difficult to accept that label. And when you keep hearing it used referring to yourself, it's tough. It's a tough thing to process.
Yeah. And the last note I have here is I really liked that you could see all Dana's hard work in talking with this young lady, moving so slow and at her pace, that she developed a very serious trust in Dana because she continued to look to her for encouragement before she agreed to answer the advocate's questions. So
right.
Tina, I did reach out to Tina on Instagram. Some of these guys check their messages, some don't. But I did reach out to her to hopefully get her on the show because I would really love to hear her process for getting herself together to do that. Some absolute amazing acting. That whole thing was just well done on the writers and directors, well done on the actors. And thank you again, the writers of the Pitt, for bringing real world situations and showing people how terrible a situation this is. And just well done.
And how little control you can have as a medical professional who wants very much to be the person to help that person get justice. Because I think it's very common that they do walk out, or if they report at all, that they don't finish the exam or they don't follow up, they don't press charges. Is this a good place to talk about Parr?
Sure.
So again, one of the things that Becky and I mentioned is that this is a episode that's got a lot of Pittsburgh history in it, and I love, or and history in general, and I love it. Specifically, I love that they brought awareness to the SANE method, and I love that they brought up PAR, which is Pittsburgh Action Against Rape. This is an actual community that's a resource for assault victims in Pittsburgh. And their blurb on their website says Pittsburgh Action Against Rape has been serving the Pittsburgh community for over 50 years through advocacy, counseling, prevention, and education. So the SAFE program, I love that little commercial that Dana built in there. And it was kind of the funny little throwaway line where somebody said, what did they say? Where she said more nurses should do it. And somebody said something to the
It was
effect
Dr.
of like,
Al is like, not so subtle hint there.
yeah, that was funny. I could like imagine the writers laughing because I'm sure that they deliberately wanted to get that information in there and that more nurses, because they have so much medical staff on the crew of the Pitt that I think they definitely wanted to get SANE in there, and there was just no real way to do it without it sounding like it was a commercial. So they just leaned right into that. But
I think they did well though,
No, I did
because
too.
we've
It
got
made me laugh.
this young, brand new nurse who
Right.
doesn't know any of this stuff. So it didn't feel forced.
It felt like exposition to me in a show, but it was not a bad exposition. I thought it was like a little bit of a wink that they were saying that to her, and Dana was saying it to all of the nurses around her. But I think I felt like more the medical staff of the Pitt were saying that to any medical people that were out there.
Yeah, go do this. We need this. Yeah.
Yes, go be part of this. And in that vein, when I was looking into PAR, they do have a huge staff of volunteers. And so if you are in that area, I encourage you to look into volunteering with them in any capacity that you can, because that is part of the problem with all of this, is that on top of everything else, it's a lack of manpower. That is a huge portion of the backlog with the rape kits. It's such a common thing that there's just not enough boots on the ground to try to help victims out there. So I'm going to look into Nashville area and see if there is something similar. Just now I'm really curious, but if you're in the Pittsburgh area, at least go to the website and take a look at PAR, because it's what they do is amazing.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to Robbie, McKay, and Langdon. We start Robbie and McKay. Robbie wants to send Roxy home because they don't have enough beds. The hospital's only getting busier. And I really liked how he changed his tune once he got a bit more involved in the story.
Yeah.
And I think the husband here, this actor did a phenomenal job. Because he obviously he does not understand why she would want or need to stay in the hospital. So I was really glad they showed us both sides of this, not just the patient, not just the caregiver. And I think it was great hearing him say the words, acknowledging that she is dying. And when he said there's nothing he can do, I felt that in my soul, because that is one of the hardest things of watching someone approaching the end of their life. There's nothing that you can do. But what I thought was beautiful was Robbie's response, that him being there for her and respecting her wishes is the most remarkable gift he can give her. And I cling to that every single day since my mom's diagnosis came in. So I just wanted to give a nod that this story, though continuing, it's having such an impact on me. And I can only imagine, hopefully it's having the same impact on other caregivers out there who are struggling. So I just wanted to make sure we talked about that real quick.
Yeah, the line that really got me was, "That's our home. I don't want it haunted by my ghost," or something like that. And he said, "I will happily live with your ghost." And I think that that is the crux of what's going on here, is that at this point, she's ready to pass. And I think she's been hanging on for them. And he is already, in some ways, living with her ghost in that house, like the ghost of
What was?
she doesn't want that for him or her kids. It's her time. And I think she wants to do it in the hospital because she doesn't want their family home to be a memorial to who she was. She wants to be able to picture them going on and living their life in that house. So this one's going to kill us, Becky. This one ain't breaking us.
This story, I'm like, this, wow. But it's real life and
It is.
it hurts, but it also helps. So
Yeah.
whew. Okay, I will not cry during this episode. All right. I liked just Robbie's face as what is it you call ear hustling?
Yes, there was a lot of Robbie ear hustling in this episode.
Yeah, when Abbott and Al were talking, and he was like, funny levity, moment of levity amidst the pain that they force us into every episode.
I know. I'm wondering if there's going to be like a little. I mean, it seems unlikely because they just don't delve that deeply into people's personal lives. But now I'm like, is there going to be a little rivalry between Abbott and Robbie for Dr. Al's affections at some point down the road?
I don't know. I have opinions on Dr. Al and Abbott when we get into chart notes. So
I do too. I have thoughts on that. But yeah, that was very funny. That little, especially when he said she seems nice, and he's like, maybe.
yeah,
Won't be here to find out.
right. And Abbott's like, I hear in my head the Scooby Doo. Whenever those faces are made, that's what I hear. So if I make that noise, that's what I'm doing. All right. So this is the part where I didn't like it. I mean, I didn't. It was great television, but I just this hurt me. So we get more Robbie's feelings about Langdon when Mel comes and talks about how they set up the cooling area and mentions it's Langdon's idea. And I tip my hat to Noah Wiley because he had me guessing in every scene where Langdon's name was mentioned or where he was with Langdon. I could not exactly tell quite what he was feeling. And I love that keeping us, it's just so well done by Noah Wiley. But we get a patient who it's, boat propeller versus man. It's all Princess can give. The scene of them in the elevator was amazing. And if you have time, I shared it on our Instagram and Facebook stories. Go look at the 3 different camera angles. They show you what it looks like when it's post-production. They show you what it looks like from the 2 different handheld cameras. And is mind-blowing to go to see how they pulled off that shot. But I want to shout out Patrick Ball. He let us know everything that he was feeling. From the second he got on that elevator, you could see him working up his confidence to finally get to say what he's been wanting to say for a while. And then how he was absolutely deflated with Robbie, with what Robbie says back to him. And you could see that shook Langdon's confidence for the remainder of the episode. Now, I just want to talk for a second about what Robbie said. I don't begrudge Robbie saying what he said. It makes sense. Hey, glad you're getting the help you need, but I don't know if I want you working in my ER. That's fair. That is completely fair because what Langdon said was, I put you at risk. I put our patients at risk. I screwed up. Robbie is not wrong. What I don't care for is you as a manager, supervisor, whatever, you drop a bomb like that on somebody is anxious and struggling with trying to fix this with you. And then you turn around and when they try to follow up, back to it, and you just walk away. That's where I'm like, Robbie, you can't say something like that and not follow up on it. Does this guy have a job? You know what I mean? I'm glad for Langdon to finally get to say his piece, but I am pissed not at what Robbie said, but that he gave no follow-up afterwards.
We're not going to agree on this one. This is going to probably continue to be an unpopular opinion on my part for most of the fandom out there throughout this season. And I freely admit, Langdon is just not one of my favorite characters. He's growing on me, but it's definitely a bias on my part. I actually feel like Langdon is getting a lot of support in the ED since he came back from
Yes.
almost everyone else. I think if we're talking about realism, Robbie's reaction, Robbie's human too. I just have more empathy for him than I do Langdon in that moment. First of all, why has Langdon not talked to Santos yet? Out of all the people he wronged, second to Robbie, I think that the biggest apology he owes is to her.
I agree. And I think that's coming.
I think so too. I don't want to lean too heavy onto that because this show has constantly surprises me with, that there is something, a reckoning that will come. And I definitely think we're going to see that. I'm just saying to this point, he's been real desperate to apologize to a few people. He has made no effort to apologize to her yet. But also, as I stated, I think the first or second episode, the way that I see these things, it's not that I'm not empathetic to the reality of addiction. I have a lot of people in my lives that are addicts that I love very dearly, and they absolutely should be given second chance. Addiction can come in so many different kinds of forms too. A lot of us have an addiction issue. But when you break faith with someone, and he did it pretty spectacularly, Robbie was completely blindsided at the end of that episode. And it could have, his whole life is that ER. And Langdon could have cost him all of it. And so I think he was trying to get out before Langdon came back because, he's human and he's definitely not the most self-aware human. And he can't really control how quickly he can forgive Langdon. I think it's unfortunate that Langdon is now losing confidence. I definitely think that Robbie is not doing a great job of controlling his frustration with Langdon. I just think I really empathize with why he feels the way he does. I mean, Langdon fucked up really bad, and that could have really had massive consequences on Robbie's career. And he covered for him to a certain degree at the end of last semester, damn it, I'm going to do it every time, last season. But I just think I'd feel very similarly. I think I'd have a real hard time with trusting somebody who I thought I would have, gone to the mattress to say, this is a doctor who would never do anything to jeopardize this team or his patients, and to find out, and he's a good friend, and to find out how spectacularly wrong you were about that. It probably shattered like his own confidence in, do I know anybody, and that's just how I see it.
You're right. What you're saying, I completely 100% wholeheartedly back you in what you're saying. I agree. My thing is simply stating that when Langdon approached him after that one trauma and he says about before, and Robbie says back to it, what I would like for Robbie to do is to be honest. Langdon, I can't have this conversation with you right now. We'll get there. Now is not the time.
I just don't know why, as a grown man, why you got to tell him that.
Because you're his fucking boss.
But he keeps pushing, and he's a grown man.
Personally, I back Robbie 100%. I get where you're coming from. But this isn't just personal. This is professional. And Robbie is being very unprofessional. And he's causing his senior resident to question himself, which is going to cause issues with patients. If you're not ready to have the conversation, be a grown-ass man and say, I know I just dropped a lot on you, but you dropped a lot on me. I need more time. We'll get back to this, and walk away. Something.
Hold on. So you're asking Robbie to be a grown-ass man, but not Langdon? He's not 20. He's 30. He's a full 30-something.
How am I not asking Langdon to be a grown-ass man?
Because what 30-something-year-old doctor doesn't realize that it is a terrible time to try to have these kind of apologies and conversations in the middle of a shift. That's crazy to me.
I don't think that's fair, because we have no clue what these last 9 months have looked like for Langdon. We don't know what he's tried to do. We don't know if he's called Robbie. We don't know if he's texted Robbie. We don't know if he's knocked on his door and Robbie didn't answer. I don't think that's fair.
Any of that. They haven't
Well,
mentioned any of that.
because they don't often let us in on the secrets. The only thing I will say is that I do think Langdon needs to step up and go talk to Santos sooner rather than later. And I said it in the first episode. The two biggest apologies that he's going to have to make are with Santos and Robbie. And I don't have a clue what it's like to be Langdon. And as much as you're giving Robbie the benefit of the doubt because the timing isn't right for him, what's it like in Langdon's head? And
It's
why
not right
the
for
timing
anybody.
is, but I'm just saying, give him the benefit of the doubt that there is no perfect time to have this conversation. And
No,
the
but
way
there's worse
Robbie's been
times.
treating him,
Write a letter.
that's my point. You have no idea what he's tried to do.
But you cannot control how other people receive your apology.
Then,
You
and I don't
can't.
think it's fair that you have to map out exactly how that apology is given. He has been trying for God knows how long to get in front of Robbie, and
We
that
don't
was the
know that.
only chance he had.
We know that he's been trying for the last 6 hours, 7 hours, and it's the worst possible time. In no universe, we're just never going to see this the same way. In no universe do I feel like it is appropriate to try to work out the apology portion of the 12 steps while you are in the middle of life and death crises. To me, that points to a character who is still so impulsive that they can't control their emotions for a 15-hour shift. There's no logical universe in my mind where it makes sense to try to force this conversation in the middle of an ER shift. And he's repeatedly tried to do it. And context should have given him, in my opinion, the clue that Robbie does not want to do this right now. Get to work, do what you got to do. You've already made your apology. Robbie's saying, I don't know that I want you here anymore. He tried not to say that. And you're right. He needs to be honest with him at some point. They need to have a conversation at some point. I just don't agree that this is the right time to do it. And I also feel like that if I were Robbie, I would get incredibly frustrated with a coworker who wanted to continue, especially one who was my good friend who had betrayed me in that way, to try to force me to have a very complex conversation in the middle of a shift. Whether or not he's blown him off the rest of the time, I don't know. They don't say anything about him trying to contact him before or write a letter or anything. They don't mention any of that. All you see is the last 6 episodes of him coming in and saying, hey, I want to talk to you. And Robbie repeatedly saying, this is not the time to do that. And Langdon continuing to force that. To me, that is selfish. It's just how I see this whole plot line.
Okay. Oh my God, we're Robbie and Langdon.
You think that we need to just give in and make out already too?
That's good. So we move on to Garcia. I liked her joke about the boat guy's wound. This looks like some Jurassic Park shit. And Robbie says, is that your official surgical diagnosis? And I thought it was cute that she was teasing Mel about the surgery patient. And then last big note on Robbie is Dr. Al gets a call from the higher ups and he's kind of almost seems like he's gloating a little bit, like she's in trouble on her first day. But then CEO douchebag, as I call him, comes down and says that I wrote here, Gloria is the Timu version of this guy. No wonder she's so ... Gloria. I can't imagine what it's like if that's your boss. And I don't appreciate that this guy didn't even bother to give Robbie the decency of telling him first, or Al telling him. They should have let him know that ahead of time. But here's what gets me. Okay, it does not make sense to me to preemptively shut down an entire hospital department without warning and time to set up, just in case the attackers get to them. These are people's lives, and they just literally in 5 seconds of announcing this, pull the plug. I don't get it. I'm sure it'll lead to some great storylines, but the way they introduced it and how quickly they shut this life-saving system down, it didn't click with me.
It was strange. I felt bad for Dr. Al because she didn't ask for. I mean, first of all, Robbie was shitty to her about, oh, you're getting called up. But secondly, she didn't ask for that. She didn't ask them to tell her and not Robbie. And she didn't have time to tell Robbie. Like, she came down right after that with Dr. Douchebag. So, yeah, I felt kind of bad for her in that moment. She wasn't asked to be the one that they informed.
Right.
And really, what good, like you said, what good did it do to inform them? They didn't give them any prep. They didn't give them any context, nothing. There was no, it was like, we're doing this in 16 seconds. That didn't feel very realistic to me either.
It didn't, I just don't, I don't know. It didn't click with me. So
That guy totally is perfect. Whoever the actor is, he's knocking
I was
it
so
out of the
annoyed. I
park.
didn't even want to look up his name. And I know
Yeah,
it's not
he's
the
great,
actor's
though.
fault, but and that's another thing I love about these actors is you become so invested in who they are as a character. You lean towards wanting to hate them as an actual
That's what
individual.
makes them good. Casting is great on the show.
It's so good.
I find executives triggering sometimes.
Well, and rightfully so, because we
Right.
have dealt with some executives in our lives.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Oh, and last note here is Princess wins the bet because she was, and I'd like to credit myself for being right that it was in fact a cyber attack.
Yeah, good for you.
I wish I'd have gotten
Pat on the
Princess's
back.
money.
Her face, that may have been my favorite moment of the
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't, because there were a couple of others we're going to get into, but it was a very good one. This was a great episode.
Yeah. All right. So I only made her a main point instead of a chart note because I know you love her. So I wanted to give Santos her due here. I'm going to get the negative out of the way first. Santos is killing me with Harlow.
No.
I wrote here in my note, she got a pen and paper for Harlow, exclamation point. Proof the VRI interpreter thing sucks. I did see an article when I was scrolling through Instagram where 2 hearing impaired people were interviewed, and they did speak about how realistic this part of the show was, dealing with the VRI, having difficulty getting care because of the lack of being able to communicate. I still think she should have handed Harlow the piece of paper and said, write down everything that you're feeling, but whatever.
Right.
But what really frustrated me with this is that she had the interpreter right there. And instead of taking time to give them just a second to talk, she's like, I'm going to let y'all get acquainted and then I'm going to dip. And she's just not properly treating this patient. And I think that the more short, frustrating events keep happening, the more I think Harlow is going to end up becoming a critical patient.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid is going to happen is Santos is so distracted and almost like bigoted isn't the right word that I want to use here, but it's something like that. It's like dismissive.
Very
maybe.
dismissive.
And I feel like that's probably, I haven't seen what you were talking about, but I would imagine that's probably pretty common with the hearing impaired community and probably a lot of other differently able people when they are in the medical system, of people not understanding or respecting or just being dismissive of the challenges that they're dealing with. And I think it's going to come up and bite her in the ass. I think you're right. I'm afraid that Harlow is going to end up having some kind of massive health event that could have been prevented if Santos was being a little bit more patient here.
I loved the displaced trachea procedure. That rocked my freaking world. That was so cool. And then we get another Garcia. She comes in hot as usual. And I just put her in here because I think it's so interesting to me how differently she talks with Abbott than she does with Robbie.
Well, I haven't really noticed the difference between her and Abbott and Robbie. I just noticed the difference between her and Langdon. Like their relationship cracks me up.
Oh, I miss you, YOLO.
Yeah.
Can't say the same.
Yeah.
I thought that was cute.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that she talks to Abbott and Langdon any differently. I did notice a lot of the background expressions between her and Santos, like the tension and the little sideways glances, and you had to really pay attention. Yeah. There was a lot of that in their interactions in this episode.
I added an Ambar.
Yeah, we get lots
of Nurse Kim sightings. So we get that man suffering from heat exhaustion, and I think Santos is doing a really good job with handling all the traumas that are coming in. And I love seeing her paired with Dr. Al. Dr. Al is, from day one to now, I should have, I don't know. I feel bad because she's great. You know, she's staying on her about catching up on her charts, but she's also teaching her and encouraging her. And I think that you mentioned last week about having, or maybe the week before, I don't know, strong female presences in your life that helped you grow in your career and personally. And I think that this pairing is exactly what Santos needs. So I hope we get to see a lot more of that. And then, her with baby Jane Doe, that made me think of you when someone else is crying or sad or upset, and you're like, there, what is
Patting you with
fucking
the
wrong
broom.
with you? Yeah, I'm hovering over the toilet. You've got the broom patting me on the back. I was like, this is 100% Mandy. But then that, oh my gosh, that beautiful song. I just enjoyed getting to see a softer side of her, which carries over into when she's talking to Robbie about Whitaker. Robbie asked her, just to go back to, there's a lot of shit going on, and Robbie's okay to take time to have lots of conversations with a lot of people. Okay. But he asks how it's going with Whitaker, and I love that comment. He's weirder than you think. But I liked seeing her talk about how much he's doing and how he wants to help everybody. And I don't want to see him taken advantage of. And then she says, I mean, he's a Huckleberry. And Robbie says, yeah, but he's our Huckleberry. Loved that. Give me more of Robbie and Santos together.
The lullaby that she sang was beautiful, and it had me Googling and found out some things that I did not know. And if we have any Filipino listeners out there, I love the representation that they have in this show. And so I'm not going to quit talking about it, but I'm going to butcher it. There are going to be things that I'm very likely going to get wrong or say that may or may not be correct about your culture. If you ever hear that, please feel free to leave us some feedback and correct us, because we love learning. And that's why we really enjoy that, because I have had a few Filipino friends in my in my life. I don't have any currently that I'm close to, so I don't really have anybody that I can reach out to talk about this, but it always fascinates me when I see it. So that lullaby was beautiful. And it made me go and kind of look it up to see what was going on. We know that Isa Barones' father is from the Philippines. And it turns out that she consulted him when they had told her that they thought she should sing a lullaby. And he was the one that gave her the idea. The name of the lullaby that they sing is Ili Ili Tulog Anay. And it was actually featured in the Philippines in a very famous horror film fairly recently. So what I read was it would be immediately familiar, but it is also an older folk song. What I found out, I've always just been going around calling, the language that Filipino people speak as Tagalog. Turns out the Philippines is one of the most linguistically distinct places in the world. The Philippines has over 180 distinct living languages, making it one of the most linguistically diverse nations globally. While Filipino, which is based on Tagalog, and English are the official languages, over 170 native languages, primarily from the Malayo-Polynesian family, are spoken across its island. So this language that the lullaby was in was Hiligaynon, which is also called Ilonggo, and it is a major Austronesian language spoken by over 9 million people in the region of the Philippines. So the lyrics are really interesting too, because they're very fitting for this baby. In Hiligaynon, it's Ili Ili Tulag Anay, Waladiri Sinanay, Kalindola Kalindola Tuno Tuno Sa Paray. But in English, it's little one, sleep a while. Mother is not here. She went to buy some bread to the market,
Aww.
which is very fitting for this baby whose mom has seemingly left her in the ER. But anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. And like I said, I will continue to bring up little tidbits about that anytime they come up. But if I am ever incorrect or accidentally say something that could be offensive, like for instance, one of the things I learned today is that the Philippines spelled with the PHIL, that is referring to the islands. But if you were talking about the people or their language, it's FILIPINO.
That's interesting. I noticed you in the synopsis that you spelled it with an F, and I was like, that's not right. I did not know that. That's very cool.
Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to bring that up. That may be my favorite moment from the episode, was
That's very
her singing to
sweet.
the baby.
And to wrap up Santos, we learned that it looks like Santos was a cutter based on the scars that we see. Thank God they look old, like long
Yeah.
healed. But that is something that is very common with young people who are victims of sexual assault. So I think that was a nice little insight and reveal
And
into
athletes.
Santos's life. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom texted immediately after that. I hadn't seen the episode yet and was like, "Oh my God, Santos, not our girl." And I was like, "Don't spoil it." And then when I got to that, I knew exactly what she was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, bless her. That tracks with her character because, as we see, like from the comment where she's saying, where she's obviously a little concerned about Whitaker, which I debate whether or not she's truly concerned because she's afraid Whitaker is being taken advantage of, or if it's because she's lonely and they live together, but he's never around. I think it's probably a little of both. But when Robbie said, he was like, "Yes, but he's our Huckleberry. I'll talk to him." And she's like, "Whatever, that's on you." And he's like, "Nice deflection." Like she just, I think, finds it physically uncomfortable to be vulnerable in front of people. And unfortunately, that kind of cutting is very common among people that have a difficult time being vulnerable and reaching out for help. So that tracks with her character. It's sad.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on main points?
Nope.
All right. Let's head into chart notes. Mel. Oh, Mel. She's so sweet and calm with her sister. And her sister's talking about having a bellyache. And she's like, I'm still going to have ice cream, right? I just love that. I think I don't know how old her sister is, but I think what she's experiencing are menstrual cramps.
I got that. I think there's going to be some kind of epidemic or some kind of, it's the word, a virus or a bug or something that's going around. I could be wrong, but I thought that because Harlow is having similar symptoms, and I feel like maybe there was somebody else in the cast that was describing stomach pains in the last few episodes. I could be making that up, but that's what I got from it, is that her sister's going to end up in the ER.
I don't want her sister to be sick, but I'd love to see the staff getting a chance to meet Mel's sister.
Yeah.
But her sister cracked me up when her sister's like, "You don't have to look so sad." And she's like, "I'm not sad. I'm good." Well, your face doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Oh, out of the mouths of babes.
Yeah, it made me laugh because it made me think about like me and you, or me and my daughter, when you're like a kind of hyper focused or, good at pattern recognition type of person, or a highly anxious person, like, and you're really close to someone, it's very difficult for that person to lie to you about what they're feeling, or when they're upset, or when they're frustrated, or so even if they don't want to talk about it, it's hard to not see that. So that made me laugh.
My favorite part of Mel's story arc was how Robbie was checking in on her and was talking her through her worry about the deposition. And when he told her he's trained many residents and she's definitely one of the best, her face lit up like a Christmas tree. And she was like, "Really?" And he was like, "I promise."
Yeah,
I just,
sweet.
I
wrote that down too. So I saw an interview or an article with a doctor who is on the autism spectrum talking about, it was from the American Medical Association. I thought about posting it on our page, but she was, I think, consulted for the show, but she was talking about doctors on the spectrum, specifically women. And she was talking about how common it is for women who are on the spectrum to not even realize that they are until later in life. Late diagnosis, particularly in women, is very, very common. And let me think, do you think Dr. King knows that she's on the spectrum?
Yes.
I mean, she knows her sister is. Do you think she knows she is?
I do.
I kind of think I don't know how she wouldn't, but I don't know. They've never really specifically addressed it, but they may not. I don't know. I wasn't sure, but then they brought it up in that article that they said they explicitly mentioned that a lot of women are not aware. So then that made me think maybe she doesn't.
She may not. I mean, God, this show, who knows? But I always see it as that she's aware of her neurodivergence. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Dr. Ellis. We get Dr. Ellis sighting. She's
Yeah,
working a
glad
double.
she's back.
Not a whole lot else to say. I just was very glad to know that we're going to get more of her this season rather than that opening and ending episodes where the shifts are changing.
Yeah, same. I was excited to see her.
All right. So Dr. Al. So we find out there is a hidden history of mental illness in Jackson's family, and his parents lied to both he and his sister about what happened with their uncle, and the sister doesn't take it well. And this is the part of Javati running after her. This is another part that didn't click with me. It felt forced just to give us a reason for Javati to have run into her dad. But I do like that out of that conversation with Jackson's sister, Javati was explaining how hard it is for families to talk about mental health. And that is very common, and that is extremely common in Black families. Black people don't often talk about mental health, and a lot of them don't go to therapists, Black men in particular. So didn't care for the runaround, but I liked that little point of that conversation.
I thought it was interesting that Javati ran after her. And what I got from that is that Javati was uniquely qualified to, I mean, she's really stepped in it emotionally a few times this season with patients. I thought she was the appropriate person to go and have that conversation. And the reason that she recognized that she should is because it's very common in the Black community, yes, but also just in conservative communities in general with a lot of ethnicities throughout the world. Parents are just not receptive to the idea of their children. Like there's this joke that Marcelo Hernandez from Saturday Night Live always has, that his mother wouldn't allow him to have depression. And I think that Javati recognizes that because I think it's very similar to how she's been brought up, that no one is paying, is interested in hearing about her mental health and the stress, as we see, like that comes from both sides of her parents as far as what she should be doing with her future, etc. So I just took from that she uniquely was able to identify what was going on and able to offer support to that daughter because she had been in a similar situation. What I don't understand is why nobody has mentioned yet, unless they're going to go in a vastly different direction than I expect, which they may. I think the whole point of all of this is that schizophrenia is most commonly starts to present right at that young man's age. It is very, very common for first year, second year college students to initially get diagnosed with schizophrenia when they go away from home for the first time and start experiencing stressful college life. That is usually when it's going to start to present. And I'm just curious why they haven't brought that up yet. I don't know why in all of the consultations they've had so far that nobody has mentioned that statistic. I think that's where they're going with it, but it's just interesting to me that they keep saying, well, we just don't know what it could be, when that was immediately where my mind went.
But I think that Dr. Jefferson has not had an opportunity to genuinely have a true psychological workup with this young man because of the sedation and all of these things. So I think that would lead to why an official diagnosis hasn't been made yet.
Yeah.
But I want to talk more about Dr. Al here. So you could start seeing the struggle when talking with Jackson's parents about his mental health, and she starts to feel the panic, and she heads to the restroom where she immediately calls her therapist to try to get an appointment. And I just wanted to clap, give snaps or whatever to the show for showing a woman being portrayed as capable of handling her mental health, sensing when something's coming and knowing to take action and making the call to talk to her therapist. I loved it. I'm glad they showed it. And it just made me love her even more.
I don't think that was her therapist. It was her neurologist.
No, it's a neurotherapist.
I thought it was just a neurologist. What I got from that is that she's got some kind of neurological disorder. Maybe I completely misinterpreted that. I know she was calling a neurology group, and I assumed from that it was a neurological disorder that she's dealing with, that she hasn't been honest, or that has not been honest, but hasn't revealed. It hasn't come up yet.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I saw it as more of her trying to get in to talk to someone about her mental health, but I don't know. We'll see. We get a huge reveal when she's talking with Dr. Abbott that she was, and I'm saying this in the American language because I will butcher the French term, that she was with the French Doctors Without Borders, and that makes a lot of sense now why she froze with the baby, because for those that don't know, on 5/12/2020, a suicide bomber attacked the Dashte Barcini Hospital maternity ward, killing 16 mothers and 8 children. And I appreciate, again, this show bringing real situations to the forefront and teaching us what, I don't remember this. This was 6 years ago. I do not remember this. So I was glad.
I don't think it got highly covered here.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But I'm very glad that they brought this to light, and that hopefully more people will look into this and other situations that are happening all over the world. And it felt like a natural reveal, not forced, because it was Abbott she was having that conversation with. I just really liked I don't like what she suffered through, but I like the way they introduced this. And it really gives much more clarity into, they just keep giving us each episode a little bit more hints into who Dr. Al is. And I like it. I like what we're getting.
Yeah, I called that was one thing I did get right. Like
You did,
she was a
yeah.
combat med, she was a combat doctor at some point, or had been involved in a combat area. I was surprised. Honestly, I thought they were going to have her involved in something in Syria. I was ashamed that I didn't know about that situation in Afghanistan. I didn't realize there was a large insurgency in May of 2020. Of course, the rest of the world, we're all focused on COVID, but there were thousands of people killed throughout Afghanistan at that time. That was only one incident, and there was especially heinous because they killed mothers and children,
Yeah.
and doctors. So it was very sad.
All right. So next up, Mohan and Abbott. So God, poor Mr. Diaz. We learned that he's already struggling with $100,000 in medical debt. Say it again for the folks in the nosebleed seats. The American healthcare system sucks. So she goes in to give him supplies, which kudos to Mohan. She hasn't had a lot of personality moments, more just dealing with patients, but I liked that they brought us back to season 1 Mohan, where we get to see the loving, caring side of her, that she was willing to go wrangle supplies to get together to give this man to take home so he'll be okay. I love how she champions for her patients. So she opens the door to give him his stuff, and what do we find? A shirtless Abbott, which, based on what I read on a lot of the fan pages, a lot of people were happy to see him back and shirtless. And I liked their chemistry. Those two had really good chemistry. And she gets to vent to him, and he offers to pay for the Uber to take him to get supplies. And I think you could, after 3 watches, I could see that, yes, they had great chemistry. But I also think he had good chemistry with Dr. Al. And while people seem to be heavy on shipping Mohan and Abbott, which I wouldn't hate, but I think if I had a choice, I would pick Dr. Al because they seem more on the same level. And they shared some really interesting glances between each other over that Mr. Hero trauma. So curious about that. But the most hilarious moment in this episode was the look Robbie gives as he's walking by the room and seeing Mohan and Abbott together. Oh my God.
I laughed out loud at that. That was very funny. I am, again, I think in the minority here. I found that scene a little bit skeevy with Mohan because she's not much older than my daughter, and Abbott is older than me. So I found it a little bit gross to have her being the one, but that's just me. I think, again, that's just mostly because I just see her about my daughter's age, and I see him as more of a contemporary. But also, I hadn't thought about it that way. The power imbalance too does make that also a little bit weird. I don't know. I like the idea of them gently exploring like an Abbott Mohan Robbie rivalry
Al?
between yeah, Al.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Al,
I was like,
I'm
wait a minute,
sorry.
what?
Yeah, sorry. Al, Abbott, and Robbie. But I think very likely we're not going to get a whole lot of any of that. They just put these little moments in here and there, but we just are never going to get real deep episodes about personal relationships between the doctors. So if that is a thing, I think it'll just twinkle out in little moments throughout the next few seasons. But
Yeah.
Because I also like the idea of Robbie leaving the random hookups with nurses alone and having a relationship, if he's going to have one, with a colleague, with someone more like Dr. Al, who is age appropriate and also has a better understanding of the trauma that he's been through and very similar goals and things like that. I wasn't a huge fan. I liked the scene just because of Robbie's face more than anything, but I found the whole shirtless Abbott thing a little weird.
Yeah, I think that was a little fan appreciation moment. I think it was just for the fans because
the ones that think Abbott's hot.
Yeah, and I'm not mad about it. All right. So this whole SWAT team thing, I'm not sure about how I feel about it. I feel like the intro was forced on us. Like it was just weird. I don't know. I need more backstory and how he got into that for that to make a little bit more sense. I don't know. I just did. Few things didn't click with me, and that was the last one that did not click. Made for a great story, but I don't understand
I
it.
think that's part of why I don't love this, is because the SWAT thing like kind of tracks with him, because he is talking again, Sam out there, about passive suicidal ideation. But he's a thrill seeker. He is very, very good at emergency medicine, because I think because of his unresolved traumas, he is addicted to the adrenaline high. So it kind of tracks that he would work with SWAT teams. But this whole episode just almost made me feel like they were trying to make a Jack Reacher type character out of Abbott. And that just doesn't fit in with the vibe of the show, where they often show people are much more vulnerable than they project, which I think is deep down what they're trying to do. But again, it just made him, I don't know, it just seemed a bit over the top to me.
Yeah, same. So next we get to meet Javadi's dad. He seems like an absolute doll. He is pushing her towards dermatology, but they seem to have a much better relationship, and he seems a lot more chill than Javadi's mom.
Yeah. But she clearly still gets some pressure from him, because she makes that comment just a few minutes later about, you have no idea.
To Jefferson.
Yeah. So I think that, yeah, but he definitely seems much more lighthearted than her mother. And they both seem afraid of her.
Yeah, don't tell your mother. No, I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, don't. But that was a great callback to season 1 in the final season finale, when they give her a beer and she's not 21 yet. And she's like, okay, but don't tell my mother. And they all laugh. But she's like, no, seriously, don't. I was like, great callback. Great
That's
callback.
funny.
And then last chart note, I just wanted to give Joy and Ogilvy a moment. They're hilarious, sparring like crazy. Langdon was not impressed with either one of them, but I like that Joy got the upper hand on Ogilvy this time.
Yeah,
she
that was
didn't
awesome.
shut up when he was running his mouth. She kept talking, and she ended up being right. And I just liked seeing her come out with the W-ish against Ogilvy.
That high school kid trying to flirt with her was funny. And she said, "You're not my type," which then made me think, because one of the things that I was getting mad at, I messaged Alexander Metz earlier and was like, "You better start being nicer to my girl Santos."
What did she say?
And that I just did it before the show.
Oh, okay.
She hasn't replied yet. But I was like, I wonder if Ogilvy's or if Joy's into ladies too. That would be a much better relationship, I think, than Garcia.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I thought you were thinking Garcia and Joy.
No,
I'm
I
like,
was
no,
thinking
that would not
Santos
be,
and-
but I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like it. Let's writers, give us a call.
Just explore that.
All right. Well, that is all I have on the episode. Anything else you want to add before we jump into final thoughts?
Nope.
All right. Well, my final thought is yay. This was a really good episode. The way they showed the survivor side of sexual assault was a bold and appreciated thing. I applaud the showrunners for choosing this and how they handled it. Another nod to the show using part of Dr. Al's backstory, teaching the audience more about things in history that we need to know about. Getting our first conversation between Langdon and Robbie was amazing. And as usual, they bring the right amount of humor into the episode. And not by they, I mean the writers, not Robbie and Langdon. That was not amusing. And then we got some good follow-up on current patients. We're introduced to some new ones. And though a couple of minor things didn't click with me, I did enjoy it very much. So I give it 4.5 displaced tracheas out of 5.
I loved it. I'm going to go back and look at that writer and see how many episodes she's written, because I thought her use of humor sprinkled it throughout some pretty heavy plot points was spot on. It was subtle, but just so needed. And it really helped to keep it from going over the rails into a little bit too heavy. I thought that the reveal about Santos being a cutter, just the subtlety of that, you blink it and if you miss it, and what it says about her character, I loved that part of it. I really like, as much as I don't want to go back because we don't
I'm
agree
not
about
fighting
it
again.
I don't want to go through all that again, but honestly, I do want to say, I think that that's part of the brilliance. I don't think either one of us is wrong. I think that this
Yeah.
is the great thing about this show is that it's complex. And I think they did a really good job of showing how complex that issue is throughout this entire episode without it dominating everything. And despite the fact that I do feel like maybe it was a little bit of the jump in the shark to have him shirtless in the ER, I'm going to give this 2 Abbott nipples out of 2.
Okay. You could have given him 5
Well, he only has 2, as far as I know.
that you know of.
Right.
He might have a, oh God, what is it Chandler Bing called his third nipple?
A triple nipple?
No, a nubbin.
A nubbin.
He could have a bunch of nubbins.
He may have a lot of nubbins. That would definitely be an exciting way to go.
Oh, all right. Show notes and news. We talked about it a little bit earlier on. This is an article in Gold Derby by Felania Ing on training for the sexual assault patient. And there will be a link to this in our show notes. I highly recommend you read the entire article. This is just an excerpt. So in preparation for the role, Lanasa visited the UCLA Health Rape Treatment Center to get a better sense of how Dana would act while examining her patient in the room. It was also important for the actress to understand how to lead the procedure. Lanasa says, I went back a second time because I knew I was going to have to use the kit, she told the LA Times. I wanted it to look like I had used the kit many times and I knew what I was doing. And you did phenomenal, Catherine. Despite the circumstances being different, the Emmy winner acknowledged that Dana's own assault in season 1 weighs heavily on her mind as she chose not to press charges against the man who physically assaulted her. In this episode, Dana gently expresses to Alana that reporting the sexual assault is ultimately her decision. Lanasa says, I thought it was great information that we got out of this, which is that you can go and do a rape kit. You can have the evidence collected and you don't have to decide on that day when you're traumatized if you want to press charges or not. Part of Dana's hypervigilance is probably because there was no justice for her. I think that's why she's cracked this season is because she didn't take care of herself. Oh my gosh, yes. She's reeling from that. She let him beat her up. At the same time, she doesn't want Alana to feel pressure, but I think she wants it for her. She wants her to have the ability to change her mind later.
Yeah, that's the fucked up part of it is that you can have made choices to move on and bury things and have peace when something like that happens to you, and still it breaks your heart to see other women do it, or other victims do it. That's part of the fucked upness of it. She encapsulated that brilliantly.
Yeah. All right. We got a lot of feedback. Man, y'all made me so happy digging around for all this feedback this week. So via our What's On Tonight Facebook page, Kelsey McNamara says, I know this show is praised for its accuracy, so the accuracy isn't surprising. But what was surprising was the depiction of the rape kit collection depicted things I had forgotten about my own rape kit collection. My own experience was over a decade ago, but the nurses and doctors I dealt with were soft and lovingly empathetic, asking for consent every step of the way. They were right to ask, but it felt like a chore to answer every time. That makes sense. I didn't know I remembered until I saw it on the show, but I remember the plethora of long cotton swabs poked vertically as a sample of every part of your body in a cardboard box, like one you'd cool cake pops in, to keep on file just in case you'd go ahead. I felt lucky to have the compassionate people around me that I did, though, even if it's all a little bit blurry. Oh, Kelsey, I'm so sorry you experienced that, but thank you for sharing that with us. I appreciate that. She goes on to say, okay, back to the fun stuff. When is Mel's concussion going to come back up? With 3 question marks. See y'all next week. Kelsey will be guesting with us next week. Did she have a concussion?
Yeah, she did.
Oh, that's a good question then. Yeah, they just kind of blew right over that, didn't they?
Yeah, that is curious. Kelsey, I appreciate you being as brave and honest as you were about your experience there. I feel like, I was very rambly early on when we were covering this part because it is tough I have a lot of anger about the way that our society treats victims of assault. And that I don't think I was my smoothest there. I think that Kelsey, what you said and your bravery and the matter of fact way that you describe your experience probably did as much or more than anything I can say to try to show the realness of what victims of those kind of assaults have to go through when they do actually go for help. It's just being re-traumatized in a lot of ways. So thank you. All right, Linda Morrison. Hey, Linda, again.
Hey, girl. Hey.
I'm a little disappointed in Robbie's treatment of Dr. Langdon. You're not alone. Dr. Langdon seems awkward around Dr. Robbie, and he seems to be losing his confidence as a doctor, but I'm hopeful that the situation will turn around. I loved the episode. I'll give it 5 out of 5 superstar Dana and sweet Emma caring nurses. Aww. They were so caring for that female victim.
I love that,
Linda.
Rating, and thank you for writing in. And I agree. I'm a little disappointed in him too. Ginger Morris writes in, anyone else getting some slight vibes between Mohan and Abbott? ? That would be an interesting hookup. Also, now that they have to go analog, I wonder if we'll get to see new x-ray tech that Princess mentioned in the first couple of episodes. Look at you, man. She's paying attention. I didn't even think about that. If they've gone analog, they can't send imaging downstairs for the computers. So the techs will have to come downstairs with the films and put them on the light boards old style. This is surely when we'll get to see the sexy new tech, because they don't mention things for no reason on this show. Facts, girl, facts. My sister and I are hoping the new tech will be played by the one and only Dr. Mike. Oh, that'd be crazy. As we all know, he visited the set. Probably a pipe dream, but we'll see. More love from Ireland, ladies. Keep it up. I like Dr. Mike. I subscribe to his YouTube channel, and it would be very cool to see him pop in as the X-ray tech. So thank you both, or thank you, Ginger, for writing in, and thank you and your sister for listening. It's so exciting that we're in Ireland.
Alma Contreras, our girl Alma, says, yes, Dr. Abbott, finally. Alma, I think we found who the shirtless Dr. Abbott scene was for. Did I mention I'm a huge Sean Hattasy fan? And him being a badass just puts me more over the moon. Poor Langdon. He said what he needed to say, but Robbie is still upset over it. Perhaps he is a bit harsh, but he was honest. I'm not sure if I was in Robbie's shoes if I would be much different. Overall, a very good episode, although I do feel like the law student storyline is dragging a bit. I agree. That's kind of what I was trying to say, Alma, is that I feel like in a normal situation, they would have at least already talked about schizophrenia. But, that may just be because they wanted to keep the storyline in there, and we're going to get a whole lot more of that in one episode. I'm sure that's what they're going for. Anyway, Alma goes on to say, I give this episode 5 cotton swabs out of 5. LOL. But only because Dr. Abbott made his appearance. Woo! Alma, I definitely want to go see Chippendales with you one day, girl. I feel like
that would be amazing.
Via the fan page, The Pitt, Kathleen C. Burke says, I have a prediction. McKay is going to help that cancer mom end it sooner. Ooh. And then there's a little broken heart emoji. Oh, man. I don't know. Huh. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Jenny Grolemund, I hope I said that right, Jenny, would love to see some day in the life of on some of these characters. We would too.
Yeah, I think they will eventually, depending on how many seasons they get, but I imagine it'd be pretty far down the road.
Yeah.
Cammie D says, potential spoiler alert. I know Dr. R is an amazing encourager, but I'm still worried about Mel, ! I agree. And I'm especially worried that they're going to make a terrible outcome next season's cliffhanger. I hope I'm wrong because Mel is an amazing person, but I don't know. As a fellow neurodivergent, I have a thing with seeing patterns. It's not 100%, but shows always get extra kudos for surprising me. Cammie, I thought the same thing. I wonder, kind of look the same way that it feels very foreshadowy, the way that Santos is not giving nearly as much attention as she should be to Harlow. It feels like Robbie was telling Mel the things that she needed to hear in that moment. But I don't know. Something makes me feel a little sick to my stomach to think about what's going to happen in this deposition. Because I could also see a world where the storyline is that this amazing, brilliant, promising young doctor has her career completely derailed by things that were out of her control. So I'm with you. We'll see.
So via Instagram on our interview with Gavin Brivik, Penny Lennox says, much as I enjoy your episode coverage, these interviews are next level. Penny, that is a very high compliment from you. Thank you so much. We love you.
That's very sweet. Thank you, Penny. And I agree. Not so much for tooting our own horn, just it's always
These
incredible.
people we talk to are amazing.
They are. And just the fact that they give us their time is amazing. But it's just, I'm always impressed with what really interesting individuals and what they're willing to share with us about their craft and their experiences. At Linda 1541, Linda, Charles is such a lovely person. I love hearing about the supportive environment in the pit. It makes me love the show even more. This is one of my favorite interviews yet, with a big heart emoji. Thank you. That was actually, I think, on our episode, our interview with Charles Baker, right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, Charles, well, Linda, you heard it. He got to me. I was telling my niece, he's still here at my mom's right now. And I was telling my niece, she's like, how was it? And I was like, I said, the best way I could describe when we hung up that interview, it felt like a spiritual experience. I felt lighter. I felt loved. I felt lifted up. That interview was just incredible. And if y'all haven't had a chance to listen to it, I highly recommend it. Not just because it's us, but because that man he's
a fascinating person. Yeah. VR What's On Tonight email. Linda Morrison was kind enough to give us some scoop on the Pittsburgh lingo. Oh, goody. Okay, here we go. Not means and that. So that would be like, I think its proper usage would be like, if you're like, I'm going to go to McDonald's, not like, and that. I don't know. Damn it.
Like how we might say your mom and them.
Oh, okay. So yes, that's a better example, Becky. It would be like, we're going to go pick up your mom and not.
Yeah.
So I think that's correct. Let us know if we're wrong, Linda. Downtown means downtown. The ow sound becomes ah. Other words are like that too. The word out becomes ah. The word house becomes haas. Slippy means slippery. I love that.
I read that as slippery means slippery too. I'm like, okay, that's a big one. No.
Yeah. Slippy means slippery, and I think that's adorable. Red up, REDD up, means clean up or tidy up. Huh. I've never heard that one.
That's an interesting one. I like that.
Gum band means rubber band. It's German influence. Huh. Nebby means nosy, but a lot of people would have a variation of that and say that person is a neb shit.
Oh my gosh. Using that.
Jagger bush means a thorny bush. A jagger is something that pokes you like a sharp stick or a prick. And I am really tempted to make a lot of jokes here about Mick Jagger and how he's still fathering children in his hundreds with 20-year-old women. That's how the word jagoff came to be. Okay. Other speech patterns are to leave words out of sentences. For example, the word to be. We say the dishes need done and the car needs whooshed instead of washed.
That's akin to the South.
Yeah, and I think also very British of us. Definitely sounds like it's a British or Irish influence. That reminds me, we say whoosh or whoosh instead of wash. Also, some people say whoosh. They say whoosh down here a lot too. Whoosh is also used in parts of Appalachia, right? There
you go.
Okay.
Linda, you know.
When I first moved from Pittsburgh to Alabama, someone asked me if I was from Pittsburgh because I said "ot" instead of "out." I think I'm saying that right, Linda.
I hope so. Again. Yeah. And feel free to record all of these words and send them to us in a voice note so we can play them. That would be fun to hear like a traditional Pittsburgh person say these rather than us trying to butchering it. Get it right.
You know what, Linda, that though it did, and you tell me what you think about this. I have been listening to Catherine Lanassa's accent this season, and then I listened to her in actual interviews, and it struck me how similar, and I think I've mentioned it before, but it's crazy how similar the New Orleans accent, which is where she's originally from, is to the Pittsburgh accent. Like there are actually a lot of similarities. They sound very much the same in a lot of ways.
Penny Lennox wrote, "Hi, Becky and Mandy." Hey, Penny. I've been loving your coverage of season 2 of The Pit and the interviews. So great. I love the behind the scenes look at the production process. Us too. It's been so enlightening. She goes on to say the introduction this week of a sexual assault storyline has been really moving. I think the show made a powerful choice by intentionally not including the details of the assault. Yes, Penny.
Yeah.
And focusing this story on the experience of the exam. This is a strong example of show, don't tell storyline. She said that so much more eloquently than I did. Instead of watching a victim tell us about the traumatic event, we see how she is feeling, what the effects are on her. We don't need to know exactly what happened. We see how she is reacting. Sexual assault stories usually focus on the actions of the perpetrator, the violence of it, and have the victim being forced to share salacious details. The Pitt's approach decentralizes the perpetrator and centralizes the survivor's strength. Oh my God, this is so brilliant, Penny. I think it gives the patient more dignity to focus on her experience and not the violation. Moreover, I think it's valuable information for anyone to know what to expect if we are ever in the unfortunate position that this woman is in. These actors are delivering nuanced, subtle performances without unnecessary histrionics added to manufacture a reaction in the viewer. Like the way the show doesn't tell the audience how to feel with music, it also trusts the viewer to empathize with the three women in this scene on our own. Well said. She says, keep slaying, Penny. Thank you, Penny. That was so well said.
Yeah, that was much more eloquently put than I was rambling on about earlier.
Both of us.
The thing I liked about it was that they did not focus on the nitty-gritty details, because exactly the way that you described it, they were centralizing this crime that had been committed against this very brave woman instead of this salacious recounting of the things that violated her dignity. And I think that that is the way that we need to move forward as a society. It's not going to change until we stop making this about like a dirty sexual thing with the victims and instead focus on the fact that it is a fucking crime, and that we need to be focusing on putting the blame on the people that the blame belongs on, and not continuously re-victimizing the people who have had something done to them against their will.
Yep.
Sam says, "Hi, rock stars." I think I sounded like her when I said that.
A little bit.
Thank you. I have the plague, so I can't voicemail and ramble for an hour. And I definitely don't want to subject you or your awesome fans to my bubonic hacking fits. Paging Dr. Abbott's thirst scenes. Wow. The writers knew what we wanted and delivered. I still want more. Well, okay. I think with Linda, we found somebody else who the booby scenes are for. His dangerous and awesome hobby, no therapist would have suggested more trauma environments for him. So I'm guessing his therapist is the embodiment of the facepalm emoji. But to be fair, he was, I think, joking.
I think that was a joke.
Yeah. Allowed him to show off those skills, medical and flirting. Bring me more, Daddy.
Oh my God.
Mom, if you're listening, I'm sorry you were forced to hear me say that sentence. That's Sam, Mom. You can wash her mouth out, not me. Speaking of more, Robbie just dropping on Langdon that he might not still have a job at the Pit and not following it up with more combo is pretty cruel shit.
Thank you, Sam.
Y'all are triggering me. I'm going to move on. That was just punishment and poor leadership. Shout out to all the sane nurses out there. It's brutal work. Trauma-informed care is so important, and I appreciate the representation. The rare glimpses of nudity reminded me of the fragility of our bodies and the forced vulnerability. Ladies, if you've never had a pap smear with a trauma-informed gyno or nurse practitioner, it's life-changing. It's the first pap smear I've ever had where I didn't tense up. Well, I have not had that experience, Sam, so
same.
Hopefully one day. It's even more about explanation, permission, and slow introduction. My heart broke for Dr. Al-Hashimi, Dana, and Emma. With the high rates of sexual assault, they've either directly experienced it or someone they loved did. Hawaiian shirt asshole CEO made a bad decision. Facepalm emoji. I wonder if they called in Dr. Hashimi because she's a woman of color and new and more easily bullied by admin. Even if analog were a good idea, zero prep for an ER.
Right?
This is going to be crazy. We're only on episode 7. Something else is coming, right? Not just the analog. Jumanji? Oh, and Dr. Santos's cuts on her leg look old and healed. Most likely she engaged in what's called non-suicidal self-injury. And then in parentheses, she puts cutting as a way to self-soothe during her sexual abuse as a child. It's a sadly common practice for young survivors, make the emotional pain physical to be better controlled. Not sure why they added it except for story continuity. And reminding me that I want to set her abuser on fire.
Oh, that's good stuff, Sam. Thank you. And I hope you feel better. Sammy is carrying a little creature inside of her and isn't able to take her medication. So she's struggling. So feel better soon, Sam. We love you.
To be clear, that's a baby, not a tapeworm.
Yes, good point.
That we know of.
Well, we haven't seen, the baby's not delivered yet. So who knows? To give you more trauma, Sam. And from EM, this is a book, I'm verbose, with a wide-eyed face emoji. Whoa, so much. It seems the main theme of the episode was lack of communication or miscommunication. That was an interesting theme, yeah. We saw it with some of the patients and their families, like Jackson Davis and his family. We learned that Jackson and his sister Jada were totally unaware of when one of their uncles had a severe mental illness. With Roxy and her husband, she clearly is ready to die, but she does not want to do it at home, where her husband and children will have to live after. He wants her to go home, and he's not ready to let her go. No, he's not. I understand that. So we see family members who are trying to protect each other by holding back information, but we see the negative impact of withholding information there too. That's well said. Big communication issues with staff as well. Robbie and Langdon literally have a loud-ass helicopter as a barrier to their communication. It seems like Langdon really wanted to get his apology stated and blurted it out, maybe even knowing that Robbie has made no indication that he's ready to hear it. So then Robbie blurted out something hurtful. Interesting take on that. He tells Langdon he doesn't know if he wants him there. We can see how this totally deflates Langdon to the point of seeing him struggle in traumas in a way we haven't seen him struggle before. It's similar to how Santos has deflated since Al Hashimi threatened repetition year 2 over charting. Santos also can't communicate with Whitaker. That's what a lot of what Mandy was saying. She's very concerned, but won't tell him. She gets her concern out by talking to Robbie. I think/hope that Santos's sweet singing scene with baby Jane Doe is a turning point, and we'll see the shift of her struggling alone to her getting back on her game with support. I do too. I hope she snapped back into the realization that patients need her. She's like the adult reflection of baby Jane Doe. Interesting. Abandoned and needing comfort so that she doesn't know how to ask for. Santos has gone from hardcore lone wolf to fearing abandonment with both Whitaker and possibly Garcia in the same time we've known the character. The reveal of self-harm scars on her thigh was jarring, but narratively explained so much. A picture sure is worth 1,000 words. She's such a dink sometimes. I love that she uses the word dink. She's such a dink sometimes, but the show lets us see why she has those issues and that there is a caring person under the prickliness. I root so hard for Santos. The SA patient, Ilana, wow, what a powerhouse story in every way. From the detail of how a kit is procured to the raw emotion of the nurses and patient involved. Emma being under the tutelage of Dana is so moving this season. I could not agree with you more, Em. Dana is so jaded, but there's still hopefulness there, and we see it through her mentoring a total newbie. Dana is such an incredible mentor, even struggling with her own trauma, reliving her assault and her decision not to move forward legally while tending to Ilana. She's still a rock star. I love that she allows herself to release that grief when she has a moment to herself. Get it out, girl. Get it out. Just wanted to add that using the proper trauma-informed language, you're in control, this does not define you, is so important. So true. The acting by everyone in that story was so good. I'm tearing up just writing about it. Nobody but Princess has been able to communicate effectively with Harlow, showcasing some of the failures of the system when treating patients with disabilities. From start to where they are now, the system has failed Harlow badly. Amen. So many examples of communication problems to the point of ending with the cliffhanger of communication as they know now, it's gone. I know I'm missing stuff with Mel, Mohan, Abbott, etc., but I mean, this is a book as it is. By far my favorite episode of the season and in the top 3 of the series. Applause, clap, clap, clap emojis, as always, for your work. Can't wait to listen. Thank you so much, Em. Appreciate that. We look forward to talking with you in video soon.
Oh my God, y'all. We are so thrilled to see the amount of feedback we received this week. And we, again, really appreciate all of you who are on this journey with us. And we cannot express how much it means to us to hear from you guys every week.
And if you would like to get in touch with us, leave some feedback or just say hi, you can send an email or send us a voice message as an attachment to what's on the night and the number 2 at gmail.com.
You can visit our Facebook page where there will be a post for the next episode, and you can leave feedback in the comment section or send us a message through Facebook Messenger. We can be found on Instagram as well at What's on Tonight Podcast and the number 2. We would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a review, comment, like, and or share on your podcast listening app of choice.
So, Mandy, how about we chill with Mohan and Abbott's nipples and talk about where else listeners can find us, podcast recommendations, TV, movies, or anything else that you want to share? What do you got?
I think the thing that I had the most fun with this week is I took my mom, had her 70th birthday this month. So my sister and I took her to see a production here in Nashville of Fat Ham, which is a Pulitzer Prize winning play. It's a retelling of Hamlet from Shakespeare, only they have set it as a backyard barbecue to celebrate the marriage of a young queer Black man in the South's mom to his uncle who has killed his father, or had his father, who is now in prison, murdered. And it was amazing. I had pretty high hopes for it. It blew the doors off of anything that I was expecting. It's kind of like the Pitt in that it was hilarious, but also just extremely emotionally powerful. And if it's coming to your town anytime, I think you may be able to find it on YouTube. Highly recommend. If I could have afforded it, I would have gone back and watched it. Today's the last day that it's in Nashville, but it was wonderful, and it would be great to see. I've read about it for years. I think it's been around for at least 7, 8 years. It would just be great to see this become less of an underground thing and get more attention. I'd love to see a movie version of it because it's not like anything that I've ever seen in a play before. So if you can check it out, do. If it's in your town, check it out. Look on YouTube. Try to find it.
Very cool. Well, for me, podcast recommendations, Still Slaying, a Buffyverse podcast, which is hosted by Penny, who you heard from earlier, is wrapping up their coverage on season 4 of Buffy, and it's so good. I am actually going to be recording with them later today to cover the season 4 finale. So please check them out. You can find a link to their podcast in our show notes. I don't have any TV recommendations this week because I want to recommend an audiobook that Mandy sent to me. It's called Never Can Say Goodbye, The Life of a Death Doula and the Art of a Peaceful End. It's written and narrated by Darnell Lamont Walker, and I cannot say enough about this book. For anyone who is nearing the end of life or caring for someone who is nearing or at that point, this is amazing. His voice is so soothing, and the way he tells the stories of the people he cared for is absolutely beautiful and so very helpful and insightful. So if you need some comfort and guidance in navigating such a sad, scary time, or if you're just curious about what a death doula does, I highly recommend you grab this book. And Mandy, I just want to thank you for once again knowing just what I needed at just the right time. I love you so much. Thank you for that book.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad it's been really helpful for you.
And a big thank you to Mark and Pirate Core Entertainment for giving us this platform. Please visit the Pirate Core website. It can be found on our Facebook page. There you can find our podcast as well as other podcasts like Dinner for Her with our very own Mandy, who promises to have some new content out next month. Panels to Pixels podcast, a journal and cinema podcast, and other projects that Mark is working on.
Well, that wraps up our coverage of episode 7 of season 2 of The Pitt. We will be back next week to cover episode 8 with special guest Kelsey from They Did What podcast, titled 1 p.m. Our interviews with Gavin Brivik and Charles Baker are up. Do yourself a favor and give them both a listen. They are such amazing, fascinating people. Also, we've got a lot more interviews lined up, so stay tuned.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. A quote from Helen Keller. We could never learn to be brave and patient if there were only joy in the world. Caring for people can be hard, painful, and frustrating, but I promise y'all it's worth it. I'm Becky.
And I'm Mandy.
We'll catch you next week when we grab the remote and see what's on tonight. Bye.